So we just finished recording an episode on feeling our feelings.
Yeah.
When we were done, you said something that was important to just notice is that it felt kind of sad.
Yeah.
We're not sad. We're actually, I think, quite happy. I think that's just important for us to point out before this episode. Sometimes it's important for us to check in with ourselves and name the things that we're thinking, even if it's uncomfortable. And I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm hoping that it's helpful for people for us to be vulnerable and share some of the things that we struggle with and know that we're okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't need, I feel like you're maybe making it sound a little dramatic there.
I'm not trying to make it sound dramatic. I think we were just in a serious conversation about a deep topic.
All right, let's get into it.
All right. Sounds good.
Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
That's a good question. One thing that I have been working through this week is trying to feel my feelings. And I'll just talk through the main reason behind some of that. So child 1 turned 16 this week, and I was feeling all the feels. I'm actually tearing up now, and I don't even know why. But it's one of those pieces where it just feels like the time has gone so fast.
Yeah.
And yet
You're making me cry.
I don't. Here, I have Kleenex over here. Sorry, I'm gonna get it. Just a second. I'm gonna snag some, and then I'm gonna send them your way too. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't hit.
Oh, good catch. So, I know the morning of his birthday, I was in Green Bay, and you all were here. And I know that there's a sweet spot of when I can message him in the morning between when I think he's going to get out of bed and when you're taking him to school.
Yeah.
So he can maybe respond or, something. So I let him know that I wished he had a happy birthday, for the day, that it goes really well. And then I thought, gosh, I'm going to send him some pictures from when he was little. Well, he liked it. But again, my mommy heart just melted, looking at these little 2-year-old and 1-year-old and 6-year-old little child ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I messaged you and I just said, I am feeling all the feels, all the feels today. Yeah, it was good.
I think you sent me that before we had even left to drop him off. And so I asked him, I'm like, did you get the messages? He's like, yeah. I'm like, did you respond? He's like, not yet. I'm like, you got to respond to your mother. Because I knew you were going through it.
Oh.
I'm like, you have to respond.
And honestly, even if I wasn't, across the state, I think I would have been feeling it too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's those milestones, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I've just been thinking is I think it's good to feel. I'd rather feel than be numb or numb myself in some way.
I'm being reminded of that weekly in my planning session I do. One of the prompts that kind of comes up or reminders is your feelings are for feeling, that's why they're there. and like for me that means pay attention, feeling what I'm feeling for a reason. So give it some space and give it some attention so that I can process it and maybe see how it's either getting in my way or something I need to lean into to help me move forward, kind of thing, is kind of how I embrace that. But there's definitely days where I'm simply feeling and I just need to write it down because I don't know why, right? A day like his birthday, it's like, well, I know why I'm feeling kind of weepy. It's because there's a lot of dynamics are shifting, and all the parenthood feelings come up of, okay, this is going fast. He was just 6 months old yesterday, and now he's 16 years old, and so I get you.
I remember when he was little, people saying, now might be hard, but don't wish away the time.
Mm,
And it's really hard to see that in the moment, right? Because you're tired, you're exhausted, you just want your child to consistently use the toilet instead, right?
yeah,
Things like that.
all the
Consistently
pressure, all the
sleep.
pressures of. I mean, for me, it's like the pressures of parenthood, getting them to certain milestones, and then you kind of lose sight of the present moment, right? Which who can blame you when they're teething and you're on 2 hours of sleep,
Yeah.
or you didn't get 6 straight hours of sleep. It was 7 interrupted hours of sleep. But yeah, definitely never. I don't think I ever really intended to rush through anything.
Yeah.
But I know those feelings were probably there of, okay, if we just don't have to tie their shoes every single morning, or can't wait until they get to this stage, and can't wait till they get to this stage, and then all of a sudden you get to this point and you're like, oh, where did it all go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's, I mean, I don't know if I'm feeling it quite as intensely as you. I mean, even saying that out loud, I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm very excited for the next step and the next step.
Oh,
And
yeah, me too. Me
that's,
too.
I think that's maybe more of what I experienced as they were growing. But I also get the feeling of, oh, I wish maybe I had been journaling more back then and documenting
Right.
more than I thought. And boy, there's so much going on. You're so busy that I don't think it. I mean, I don't want to judge myself for that. It's more of like, well, how can I make sure I live for the present, moving forward, kind of thing. All we have is the present, is kind of like what I've been hearing over the last week or two. And we've talked about the woes of the past and the worry of the future, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And overwhelm and anxiety and the should haves and the could haves, and how that kind of robs you of the present moment, which is how you build your future.
Right.
So, anyway, yeah, we're being pretty reflective on that lately.
Yeah. So we're preparing to get ready to go visit my sister in Seattle, child one, child two, and myself. And we're also planning to travel abroad this summer with grandma and grandpa, right? And us as a family. And there's these pieces where I keep thinking, gosh, there's so many places I wanted to take them before they turned 18. There's a lot of experiences I wanted to give them from a traveling standpoint that I just haven't. And so maybe even an easy example, like I thought we would take them to Chicago, and we haven't taken them to Chicago. I thought we might go and explore some of the historical sites on the East Coast. Like I was just at a conference in Philadelphia. So
I brought that up.
right,
Yeah.
Independence Hall and all the different things that are historical and really exciting to see. I think there was a part of me when, and I normally don't live so much in the past, but I think I was looking forward to the future. I'm like, gosh, 16 now means 2 more years until he might move out of the house, until he might go to college, until all of these things. And I sure hope he's still willing to be a travel buddy for me,
Right.
because I want to go places with him and his brother. And I know some of that, though, we lost several years of doing that just because of our comfort level traveling during the pandemic for things that weren't necessary. Maybe that's the way I say it.
Hmm.
And so I think that's part of me too. I'm feeling those feels of, um, like, gosh, I miss out on an opportunity to do that. And though at the same time, because I don't want to think that it's all doom and gloom and, you know, we had so much together time at home. We had family game nights. We had family movie nights. We got to know our kids a lot during the pandemic. And that truly is a gift because if we weren't forced to slow down, if we weren't in the situation where we were with each other all the time, I don't think that it would be the same either. So I don't think I would trade that together time that we experience for the travel. But it's those sort of things that just come up for me.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever talked to you about that before. So all those things came crashing on me this week.
Feeling the feels.
So I was feeling the feels, yeah.
I mean, it sounds a little bit like you're grieving what could have been, but also wanting to acknowledge how amazing it is what you have.
Right.
That can be tricky to navigate. I think that comes with opportunity and possibility, right? Like that uncertainty. That's where I get caught up in, say, a decision to go travel, right? Not quite sure how it's going to turn out. So I get stuck at that point, and I'm not thinking of, it's harder for me to think of what I might gain from doing the thing. I'm more focused on what am I missing out on? What's the opportunity cost, or how it's more of like how it's like hard for me to disrupt the status quo.
Sure.
But for you, the status quo is I go on trips.
Right.
With having the kids at home for a couple years and not traveling as much, that was easier for me to accept because it's what it had to be. We had some decisions to make, but they were fairly easy and informed, and what I felt was necessary on my end, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm rambling because I'm trying to maybe inspect my own way of thinking, and how, like, it's okay if I think something's necessary. I'll say yes to it, but if you're like, well, let's go on this trip, and I'm like, well, that doesn't seem necessary to me. Like, that's uncomfortable. That's not necessary. And it's just one of those things where I think fortunately, you're very patient and usually up for navigating that process with me,
Hmm.
versus this is what we're doing and you need to deal with it. Even though that's a lot of how I go about making decisions is, oh, this is how it is. I have to deal with it. Let's keep moving. It's not, I don't think I'm actually building any muscles when I let life happen at me.
Hmm.
It's almost like I'm taking kind of the easy way.
I like how you're phrasing that because I think we can all let life happen at us.
Yeah.
And it can be the easy way, like the way you're saying that, because it gets you a little bit off the hook from voicing.
It lets me almost surrender my agency.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's is a trick. I think this is a really tricky idea to talk about, but it came up again, and I even have it. Like, I wrote myself a little note: agency is greater than anxiety. I have it framed up here,
Yeah, I see that.
or like on my little post-it over there, right?
Oh, yeah, there
And
too.
I forget that, and I don't know. It's kind of boring that I'm rambling about it,
No,
but
no, I don't think it's boring. I mean, I think a lot of people struggle with anxiety, whether anxiety that's been diagnosed or just feelings of worry, what if something goes wrong, um, just uncomfortable about maybe what could be. I mean, that's how I see anxiety often, right?
When you look at me,
No, just from my lived experience. And it's hard to remember in those moments that you do have agency. And agency is actually actions that you choose.
it's almost like, okay, what small amount of agency can I exercise? Because sometimes it is all a little overwhelming, right? And the the requirements put upon you in the circumstances that you may find yourself, it might feel like you don't have a choice. But I'm not trying to glance over that, but I'm trying to think of like, okay, what are some really micro choices that I can own and build that momentum, right? Yeah, it's a process. I also like that leads into like my procrastination and my hesitancy when it comes to things, and it's a very convenient place to hide.
Right.
And if I do allow the script in my head to say, well, I have all these requirements upon me and responsibilities for which I have to show up, therefore I can't do this or that or the other thing, um, or I have to be here for you, or I have to be here for them. That really takes away my own personal power and almost excuses my lack of ambition or my agency.
Right.
When I bring this stuff up, like I'm not trying to like excuse the way I operate. More of like I'm curious of like, am I deciding to do the things or am I letting it happen to me?
Yeah. It's also making me think sometimes we might have something that we need to do and show up for, but we still have within that set of boundaries agency to develop it the way that we need.
Well, I think when there's things I have to do, it's easier for me. Is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Is it?
Yeah.
Does
I mean, it doesn't feel easier, but when I feel the pressure of you have to do this or else, um, then I can kind of rewire or short circuit my analysis paralysis and get to work. It doesn't feel good, like when I look at it in hindsight, but I
Yeah.
see like, oh, the mechanism was if I don't do this, it'll be even worse, kind of thing.
Oh wow. So you're really using
I'm not trying to. I just realized that is a mechanism to get me to action. Like, oh, like the bill is due on the 20th. I don't think of it until 10 o'clock at night on the 19th, let's say. Like that's not me, but I'm just saying
right.
like that's maybe more a clear way of saying it, of like waiting to the last minute, like, or like waiting for the last night to write the paper. I feel like maybe I do that in certain ways throughout my days or something. And maybe that's also part of just not wanting to be on the hook, or not wanting to say, nope, can't do that for you because I've got this going on. And then if I do the thing that I said I was going to do and it doesn't turn out, then everyone's going to know, kind of thing. Or they'll be like, well, you should have done this other thing. Or, I get all these jumbles of, it's basically just things distracting me and keeping me where I'm at. It's resistance, the shadow self.
Right.
Talking about traveling.
No, I wasn't intending to make this one about travel.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't necessarily want to make it about anxiety and Keith's lack of productivity, because then I'm just buying into a negative script that I've been trying so hard to fight against.
right.
You know what I mean?
I do. I also think sometimes there's power in saying the thing out loud because you can't always identify it unless you name it and say it. It's making me think about the book that you shared with me, The Ultimate Coach.
Right. Finally got to one of the parts that you were talking to me about.
Yeah.
No, I can't quite remember what it is. Anyway.
There's a piece where they're talking about the first step is identifying what is holding you back. Kind of at least this is how I interpreted it. Like, what are your blocks? What are those scripts that you have in your head?
We've talked about blocks.
Yeah. But what are those things that are holding you back to be the person you want to be, that you aspire to be, that you believe yourself to be? You need to do the hard work of knowing what those scripts are that you keep saying about yourself in particular. So that way you're able to truly forgive yourself. And I'm not sure if this is how they said it, but really a radical self-forgiveness of trying to take all those pieces that you have latched onto throughout your life and believe to be true about yourself. So one thing that I have been journaling about in particular is around the concept of people may have said things to you in your past, right? Parents, friends, bullies at school, society at large, just societal messages. Yourself, right? But all of those things that people have said to you don't necessarily mean that you are those things unless you identify and connect yourself to it and decide that that is who you are. And so that has been really fascinating to me because I've been trying to go back and journal about what are these things that I believe about myself to be true that get in the way of pursuing the goals I have for myself now. If I can identify those things, and I have, and I've been journaling each day on one of those thoughts that was either bestowed upon me by somebody that probably doesn't even remember they said it, might not even remember who I am, right? But how do I start coming to terms with what does that mean about me? What do I make it mean? And how do I start forgiving myself for that thought, for that, I don't want to say buying into it, but do you know what I mean? Like aligning my who I am at my core with something that doesn't serve me and I don't want to believe to be true anymore.
It's like, yeah, I mean, whether it was somebody that said something to you or made you feel labeled a certain way, that's the part I got to. Okay, not great that somebody put that on you, but you also have to own the fact that you're still carrying it, and that was a choice and that was a decision. When you were first talking to me about it, I'm like, oh, that sounds a little kind of stoicism, where you have to own the fix. It's all internal, and it's combating this external stuff that's coming at you, but also like a little bit of like, oh, you kind of got to bootstrap yourself out of this mess and own it in a way. And I'm like, oh, this might be some tricky work because we tend to not want to blame ourselves or find a way to not maybe own, for me, like maybe my shortcomings or whatever. Or if somebody says something that hurts my feelings, it's probably more likely because there's some truth to it. Doesn't mean it's nice or that it was
Right.
or it was necessary, right? Yeah, coming to terms with the fact of like, well, I'm carrying this and I don't need to, and I'm feeding maybe some of these feelings of whether it's blame or resentment and stuff. It's like doing the work that allows you to let that go. Kind of what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
It's just like criticism or gifts. People can hand it to you, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can say thank you and then turn around and drop it in the garbage.
Or just not ascribe it to yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, those things that then we kind of brand ourselves with those things, and it's hard to remove them.
It is. That journey of identifying them, feeling them, I mean, I think that's also like the feelings is a really important part because there's so many other things that we can do for ourselves to self-soothe that aren't necessarily beneficial to us from a wellness standpoint,
Yeah.
right? Emotional eating, alcohol, gossiping, right? Like there's so many things that you could do to try and distract yourself.
One thing that's come up throughout my journaling over maybe the last couple weeks is paying attention to what I'm consuming in my diet, but also, what media am I taking in, what content, what movies or shows or videos, and, all the stuff that I consume, doing an audit of that. And I think I do a fairly good job, but there's always like maintenance that can be done, I think. And that's an important thing that I'm also working on is like, what's my maintenance schedule? I got to keep this machine operating
Right.
well. So thinking of like, okay, what am I consuming? Doing that audit, and then also thinking about, well, what am I creating? What's my output? Because this is all the stuff that's coming in over here, and maybe I'm taking too much in and I'm not creating enough. I'm not putting enough out. And that's been a helpful way for me to think about
Yeah.
it. Because it's not balanced by any means. I definitely take in more than I put out, and I take in a lot of signal from the world around me. I think I hold too much. And that came up in something else I was listening to. I think it was around mental health. But it's like, you can't carry all of the worries of the world. Like, I don't
No, you
have
can't.
that strength.
That'd be a lot.
It was nice to hear because it's something I've known, but I do tend to let my empathy tap run wide open, and it really leaves you feeling kind of empty. And I mean, I'm pretty sure people understand, like, that doesn't mean I don't have empathy and I shut it off for people, but I can't care about every horrible thing that's happening in the world. I think I would explode.
It'd be
I
a
think
lot.
I'm
It'd be too
pretty sure
much.
people understand what I'm saying. Like, it's not that I don't have empathy for everybody that's suffering, but I can't be the one to make it all better,
Yeah.
and I can't be the one that walks around giving all my resources and energy to every single thing that somebody else says I should care about. I hope I can build mechanisms and structures that can allow that to happen more, right? It makes me think like organizations and foundations and philanthropy and stuff. Like, that's something that's down the road that's on my list of things I want to achieve and attain. Building things that can help beyond me, right? But right now, I have to focus on maybe a little smaller circle and then keep that growing out. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm thinking two things.
Say them both and then start with one.
So one is a more specific example of something that was said to me that I latched onto that I'm still working through today. And then the other is around how in the ultimate coach, then they move forward to saying, once you identify these things that are true, or you believe to be true and ascribe to yourself, how do you then move forward to something they call the document, which is a series of I am statements that are used to really manifest the person that you are capable of becoming and that you want to become. So, one of the things that I am working on is to improve my health and my wellness. As part of that, I would like to lose some weight. I feel like I've had a really good approach. I found a really great program that I really enjoy and is reasonable and helpful, I would say, from a mental standpoint. Um, After finishing the Ultimate Coach, one of the things that I was downloading was related to that goal of losing weight. I was thinking back on people that have have said things that I have ascribed to me as a person. And one of those things was when I was probably 13 or 14. I was growing. My body was awkward because I was going through puberty and all those things.
Whose wasn't, right?
I know.
Not to take away from you, but I'm like,
Appreciate that.
I think we can all give
Right?
you a little nod and like, I've been there, girl.
Right. And during that time,
Still
your
there.
body goes from being like quote unquote normal size to maybe being a little heavier than being normal size. At least that's how it was for me.
Just the word normal, right?
Right. What is that?
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I remember that I went to kind of it must have been my annual checkup, something like that. And the medical professional that I met with made a comment or a joke. It was a joke, basically about my weight, and just said, well, if you grow 6 to 8 more inches, the weight that you are right now won't be a problem. But just kind of laughed at it. And at the time, I'm sure no one registered that that was something that I would be carrying with me until today. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Until today. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, so it's okay to be made fun of because of your weight. That's like what I took from that.
Mm.
And I don't think that's okay. And yet it's one of those things that um I know I have spent a great deal of time thinking about, journaling about. You would think you could just be like, well, it's just a off the cuff comment that no one probably even remembers. That probably wasn't that big of a deal. But it made me concerned about going to future appointments. It made me self-soothe by eating, which was not helpful, right, for the goals that I wanted to have. And so it's interesting to me to not have the stance where I think growing up, I remembered that, and I had always been frustrated that that impacted me in a negative way. But to shift it slightly and be like, whoa, okay, so somebody could have said that, and people have probably said things that have not been nice that I didn't ascribe to myself, right? Somebody maybe would be like, gosh, if you weren't so lazy, da da da. But I'm like, I don't see myself as lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually not going to pick that up from you. Or, gosh, these muffins sure are dry, should probably learn how to bake. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm a pretty good baker. So, yeah, maybe I made the muffins, maybe they were dry, but I'm not going to pick that up because I know that I actually am good at doing this thing. But it definitely connected to me because I had that awkwardness in my body, not feeling like my weight was where it should be. And so it just is something that whenever my body isn't like the size it should be, I'm using air quotes right now, that voice in my head is, you can be made fun of. This is not good. You need to be lighter. You need to, get to it. And that's not it actually isn't helpful. It kind of goes back. You were talking about sometimes when you tell yourself, sorry, you just got to do it, and you're kind of not mean to yourself, but critical of yourself and like telling you, like directing you to do it. Like you might get it done, but it's also hard.
Yeah, there's like no pleasure or joy
Right.
kind of thing. You're almost like resentful as you're going through the motions in a way.
Right.
Have you discovered the difference between what was said to you at that doctor's appointment and, say, somebody making a comment about your cooking Like how come one stuck with you and one could kind of roll off your back?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is because of how I see myself and what I believe I'm good at and what I believe I struggle with.
Confidence. Okay.
Yeah. I think some of it's that because even from a young age, I was good at baking. I like to pick up a cookbook and cook supper
Mm-hmm.
for my entire family.
Yeah.
I just really, I enjoyed it. I got praise for it and I was good at it, right?
Okay. And praise. Okay.
Praise. I mean, I think that probably did help of like, wow,
I'm not trying to analyze you, but I
I don't
am trying to
know,
decode some of
like
the
why did that
things.
stick?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, maybe it was wow, that really great job on that, you know?
That happened more than the, oh, this is dry and not great.
Yeah. Right. And even that, I'm like, yeah, I get you. It is it is dry and not great. And new recipe. Next time I would do it a little differently. I felt like there was more
Oh,
ease with it,
subjective versus objective kind of stuff.
as in
If a
it's
muffin
not good or
if a
bad.
muffin is dry, that can be subjective, but if you agree with it,
Yeah,
it's kind of more objective, right? Like
sure.
you can agree, but if you're talking about your appearance and there's a
Yeah.
dissonance between what somebody is saying and how you feel, and then now it's affecting how you feel about yourself,
Yep.
there's like a subjectivity there where it's like, well, that's your opinion, man. Like,
Right.
do you know?
Yeah.
But then we take on those opinions. That's tricky.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can just understand it a little bit more so that it helps me move forward through things. Where maybe things like that come up for me, or like once I get more into that part of, what are the things that I believe about myself that maybe would be more helpful if I let go of them.
Yeah.
Not to make that sound easy. I'm sure it's a process, or I know it's a process.
I mean, I do think some of it though is being able to name it and spend some time and do that. What is a goal? I mean that's and this isn't their method. It was just similar, right? But what is a goal that I am working towards that I feel stuck, and what are those thoughts that I have about myself related to this? What is Shady Laura saying? What has Shady Laura said?
Right.
Um, and why, like to your point, why that and why not your baking skills, right?
Mm.
Why not your skills to puzzle? Why, like why? Because right, let's be real, I'm a pretty dang good puzzler.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other piece, the last several years have been a lot better with me working towards my wellness goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I found a really great program that focuses on working through the mental stuff behind weight loss and wellness. I'm very grateful that there has been a more body positivity movement. And one of my favorite books that I really, really, really enjoy. So, anybody that wants to start digging into this, it's called Your Body is Not an Apology. I think I've mentioned it on the pod a long time
I'm
ago.
sure it came up, yeah.
It is just a very good book about, regardless of your body's size, ability, etc., you do have the right to feel good in your body, to love your body, and for your body to take up space. It's a fantastic book, and it pairs very well with the movement right now And I'm not saying that movement is widespread. I know there's lots of critics of the movement, but just being able to not have wellness be the result of shame of yourself, but be the result of empowering yourself to build the life you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I've done weight loss both ways or wellness both ways. And I'm telling you what, coming at wellness and weight loss from a stance of empowerment and building the life and the habits you want for future you is so much easier and affirming of who you are as a person than using shame. It just is, from my standpoint.
Yeah. Like what fuel is going to burn more clean
Right?
kind of thing. I feel like I maybe said that on here before with something else, but that I guess maybe I was hitting on some stuff earlier when we were talking and not even sure if we were recording. But I guess I maybe sometimes I lean into burning some dirty fuel to get the thing done. And it's not exactly healthy.
Right.
Are we kind of talking about decluttering a little bit or like decluttering our mind?
I don't know if it's I mean,
Because that just kind of popped in my head. I'm like, oh, I've been thinking about decluttering like my spaces, right? And
yeah.
like working
I don't
on like this mental clutter. You know, how we always talk about,
mental noise.
yeah, writing it down, getting it out, processing it, and it's like distill the noise into signals that I can understand versus like
Right.
static and just clutter that's just bouncing off of all the surfaces and feedback loop that I can't. You know, I have to kind of almost plug my ears because it's just too noisy kind of thing. Um, I don't know. That just kind of feels a little bit like what we're talking about, actually.
Some of it, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it is mental noise, but I see it as the things that are in my head, the voices, the old phrases, the comments that I've chosen to hold on to that are not helpful. Maybe it is somewhat declutter and unpack that, but at the same time, how do I rebuild those thoughts or create new thoughts that are going to help me go after what it is I want to do?
Spring cleaning, right? What can I donate and what can I throw out so that I have more space for the things that I want? And maybe I can enjoy the things I already have. And then I'll start realizing, well, maybe I don't need more things. Maybe I simply needed a little more room to enjoy what I already have. Or now I have more space to go after some of the things that I didn't have room for because of all of the clutter.
Yeah.
For me, it's thinking more of making room for the things that are important and having the space to make room for myself. You hit on that, and it's come up before, maybe recently too. Is like I can take up space, but I've had so much stuff stacked up around me that I've had to shrink.
Right. I think it is a good analogy because if I'm thinking spring cleaning, like when I go through my closet, I get rid of the things that have holes in it, that are worn out, that don't fit quite right. You know, like it's too big or too tight. I put it in a box and wait or donate it if it's like, even if this did fit me, don't like it, probably not going to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you're cultivating those thoughts like you would cultivate your closet for things that fit you, that make you feel good, and that align with kind of the style and the image that you want to have. Like I could throw out thoughts, don't want to donate them, right? Like I would do with my clothes.
Pass that trauma
Yes,
on.
let's pass the thoughts on that cause Laura pain. Let's not do that. But you know those thoughts of um you can be made fun of because of your weight, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Throw that in the bin.
Throw that in the bin, and to do that, really lean into that radical self-forgiveness of, I pick that up. It makes sense why I might pick that up because of my lack of confidence in achieving my wellness goals at that age. And I've carried it this far, but it's not serving me. And so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to forgive myself for continuing to hold that on and hold it while it's made it more difficult for me to do the work I want to do and I'm excited about. And you know what? I'm going to pick up some new beliefs about myself that are going to serve me much better and build those into my daily practice. I am ... so I can remind myself of how powerful I am, how I'm able to achieve the things that I want to achieve. And that's going to help me align my daily habits with my proclamations of who I am, right? I'll be able to manifest my future through my actions by my intention statements.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding, being aware, and not stopping there, but moving on to what are the actions I can take that'll get me to where I want to go. I'm feeling this way. I don't want to hold on to that anymore. Therefore, I'm going to do this, and that'll get me over here. I sometimes stop at, I identified the problem. Here it is.
Right.
Okay. Gonna
Sorry.
box that up, and it's gonna sit in the corner. Oh,
Yeah.
it fell out of the box again.
Shady Keith decided to unpack it.
Yep. And he
Don't want to get rid of that.
he stapled it to the wall.
Like, check this out.
Anyway, the stuff moves out harder than it moved in.
Yeah. It's important to notice that.
It's over time, right? It takes work.
It does. Do you ever talk to your shady brain when it comes up?
I
Or
don't
your
know.
shadow self? I like how you say that, shadow self.
Yeah, I don't know if I think I more acknowledge what it's saying to me, and it's usually while I'm writing. Like, I'll intentionally sit and I'll be like, okay, what are the thoughts that are coming at me that are keeping me where I'm at, keeping me small, stopping me from making progress, and you're not good enough, all those things. And I might write back, yeah, and I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to that. Thanks for sharing that, but I'm not taking that. I don't know if I've necessarily done that recently, so it would probably benefit me to talk back a little more versus acknowledging a little more of a firm talking back might do me better.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I will say I get in a habit. I'll be like, no, Shady Laura, that's not what we're believing anymore. Remember?
Yeah.
Now we're believing this, that everything we're doing is working. Or we're working on believing that everything we're doing is working. You have to make sure that new statement feels true or is plausible. Yeah, I will say I do talk to Shady Laura sometimes. Not normally on the journaling page. I have when I'm driving by myself. Like, Shady Laura, no, we're not doing that right now. If anybody was in the car with me, they're probably like, oh, geez, here she goes. Maybe bringing it back to feelings and feeling our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It is good to recognize our feelings are attached to all these statements that we make about ourselves or something that we're interpreting, right? Like we started out, child one is now 16. What things am I saying about that are making me feel sad, excited, hesitant, hopeful, like all those things? I could feel those feelings and just stuff them down Or I think it's important to acknowledge it. If it's sadness and you want to cry, cry. If it's happiness and you want to giggle or smile, do those things. We aren't always I'm saying we as like a society as a whole. I feel we often don't give ourselves the time, space, and freedom to feel. If we did, we could be more in tune with some of those things that we believe, and it could help us understand better what is the best way forward for me. What are the next steps that I could take that are going to honor the feeling I have and the thoughts that are creating that feeling? Like, do I need to dispel that thought, or do I need to lean into it because I'm like, yeah, this is the way we're going? I just think our feelings can tell us a lot about where we're at and where we need to go.
Yeah, making time and space to check in with those, to acknowledge, right? I need to make sure I do it more. I have been doing it more,
Yeah.
which is maybe why I'm in a little bit of a dip, maybe confronting certain things. But there's more to do, and there's probably always going to be more to do. It's a marathon. So I'm gonna keep training for it. But yeah.
Feeling your feelings and the things you believe about yourself don't always have to be sad and hard and difficult. You can also believe things about yourself that are uplifting, empowering, and exciting.
How do you do that?
How do you do? You're funny. So just maybe if I look for things that I'm excited about and looking forward to in the next couple months, and I know I talked about this, and this might not be what you're excited about, but I'm really excited about
Travel.
I am. I think part of the reason I'm excited about travel is because I like exploring new things, and I believe that I am a good traveler and that I am a learner, and I'm good at learning new things. So travel for me lines up with that. Also, I'm excited about it because some of the best times I have are with family, connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get to travel, I get to unplug. I don't have the pressures of day-to-day life with work, things like that going on. So to be able to go and spend time with child one and child two in Seattle and visit my sister and her family is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm super excited for that trip.
I'm sure you are. You're going to get a little bit of a
because I'm not going.
Yes. But you get to recharge.
Yes. And honestly, part of the recharge for me is work. And I know that's different, but I don't get to focus on work a lot of the time, or what feels like I ought to be doing for work. I let some of the life chores become a lot of my work, and I always feel like I can do more. But anyway, something that you said about leaning into the travel made me realize that I need to put in more work focusing on how I can lean into the joys that come with it, the discovery, the learning, making the time and space to enjoy it versus what I tend to dwell on, which is what am I going to miss out on because of this?
Yeah.
Which ties back into the reason I like some of my solo time is because then I can focus on some of the things I don't have time for during a regular week.
Yeah.
But I can enjoy a trip also. I'm just not used to it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed many of our trips.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say that.
No, I know.
It's just that there is some extra baggage that comes along with me when we travel and nobody can see it. And I mean, that's stuff I just need to work on. And part of that is not bringing it with and doing some work beforehand of designing what I want. I want to lean into that and I want to be more enthusiastic about it. But it is different for me. And we both know that. And being aware of that means instead of just acknowledging it, the next step for me is, okay, so what are the actions? What actions am I going to take so that I'm setting myself up to be fun, to be around and enjoy myself as well?
Yeah.
And that's things I need to schedule into my days, giving myself the opportunity to think through those things, So anyway.
Yeah. It just makes me think again about agency.
Yeah.
That we have these things that if we take the time and the space to plan and to think through, we're in a better position to have a perspective if we actually do care. And it does matter that then we have some agency to act.
Yeah. And this might have to be like something another time that we talk about it, but I do think that maybe my lack of action or agency is tied to how much I allow clutter to build up. And we haven't talked about it much, but when you brought up the meds, that acronym.
Yeah.
What was it? Meditation,
exercise, diet, and sleep.
Sleep, yeah. So I think we were going to come back to that at some point.
Maybe we can do that yeah.
Those are some great points for me to focus on, because the clutter builds up and I allow it to, and I don't give myself time and space for like the meditation part. You don't usually meditate while you're listening to an audiobook or listening to music. I mean, sometimes I'll have like a soundscape in the background, right? But I allow myself to be assaulted with input. It's not just the world doing it to me. I do it to myself. And so this stuff piles up and it almost subverts my ability to think.
Yeah.
It's like a white noise machine all the time. And then I'm just kind of drifting through versus stopping, taking time, making decisions, allowing myself to think through them. So I mean, that's a lot of big stuff. But our entire conversation maybe helped that come up. And that's come up before where I'm like, oh, I consume too much.
Right.
I let too much in. And I feel like that's probably a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
That's not serving me.
Yeah.
It serves me in certain ways, but it's just like if I eat too much ice cream, a little bit's good every now and then. It's fine. Like I can handle it, but too much all the time, not healthy, not good for me, not going to help me get where I want to go.
Right.
And I don't want to just keep saying where I want to go. I want to start going there.
Yeah.
That's my little rant.
That's good. It feels like we're rolling into a second episode almost.
I know.
Let's wrap it up with pulling a quote card. I pull one of these every day at work.
You have the same deck, I think.
I have the exact same deck, and I pull one to see what the universe needs to tell me today. Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Depends. Do you think yours is better than mine?
I don't think so.
Okay, you go first then.
Okay. I think mine's good, though, but that sounded like it wasn't good. Okay, there is no greater joy nor greater reward than to make a fundamental difference in someone's life. Sister Mary Rose McGeady.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, I think it is good.
You're somebody.
I am somebody, but I do think it makes me realize that the actions that I do and how I show up each day have the power to make a difference in people's lives, whether that's at work, not at work, for our family, for our kids, for you. It's important to show up. How about yours?
Okay. If you do nothing unexpected happens. Faye Weldon. Pretty good one for me. I need to work on my spontaneity and getting out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right? That's almost a constant. And with patience and within reason, there's work to do there for me. It also makes me think of, if you want special things, you have to do special things.
Yeah.
Willing to work for it.
I like it. A little nudge from the universe.
Yeah. All right. Should we get out of here?
Let's do it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
I love you. Let's be real. I'm a pretty dang good puzzler.
Mm-hmm.
You're funny.